LeBron with Anthony Davis, a healthy one, of course, and Kyrie Irving makes the Lakers what in the West? But as we discuss that and we go through, to me, it's Tim Bontemps did his article at ESPN. You guys have been doing it, the 10 questions of the offseason. And he had a topic about James Harden. And that's something that I think you also have to introduce into the conversation. But before we do that, as I mentioned earlier, Key, when everybody talks about Kyrie's situation with Brooklyn and what if he leaves, it's always what happens with Kevin Durant. What will Kevin Durant do? Some people suggest that Kevin Durant will demand out of Brooklyn. Well, he was on the ETC's podcast, and he said this. He said, there's no involvement at all. He said, I can't be involved with this is this man's livelihood. This is much bigger than me. Being a free agent is one of the most important times of your career. That can't be swayed by anyone else. I just do me and wait for the time. So do you believe that Kevin Durant, regardless of what Kyrie does, won't have any impact at all or won't be angry or want out of Brooklyn? He's saying he's staying out of this thing. He's not trying to influence Kyrie or anything.
No, I could believe KD. I mean, like he said, it's this man's livelihood. This is what this man wants to do. It's one thing to start a free agency kind of recruiting process when you're trying to get a guy to join you and make a team work. But then think about it, Alan, when it does not work out, to try to keep somebody just to keep you there, you're going to be miserable. Kevin Durant will be miserable trying to keep somebody that really probably is already, from a mental standpoint, could potentially have checked out on you just because he's tired. He probably was tired of hearing all the noise around what he decided to do, people blaming him for the shortcomings of the Nets, all of that sort of stuff. It's hard to now try to re-recruit him to stay with you when there's other options for him to go. Now, I don't think those options are all that good other than the Lakers, to be honest with you. When you started naming, or Woj said Miami, I'm like, Kyrie to Miami ain't going to help them win no championship.
And
it's not enough that's there.
Right. He also doesn't. There's certain places where he doesn't fit. Right. There's certain things where you're like, man, that doesn't work. It sounds nice, but that doesn't work.
Yeah, it does. Certain places just doesn't work.
Yeah, but there are certain places, Key, as I was just referencing, that you look at them, and the Laker was, to me, that's the one. If you're asking me to power rank the options outside of Brooklyn, because we all know Brooklyn's the best option. Stay there. They'll give them something. Yeah, that makes the most sense. But because we don't like to make sense, we just like to make stories. This is the one to me that I put the Lakers as the best story. But number two, I have a team that I want you to react to. Because as we mentioned, James Harden and the Sixers, they still have to figure out what they're doing with him. And the rumors are they're going to give him a short-term extension. But it's like still $50 million a year, even if it's only 2 years. And I thought both teams could help each other again. What if you were the Nets and you said, tell you what, Kyrie doesn't want to be here anymore. We'll trade him to you. You give us James Harden back. If you're the Sixers, never mind from the Nets' perspective, because Kevin Durant will be happy. He and James like each other. They liked playing together. Kevin Durant didn't want to see James Harden leave, so at least you get that back. Something that still makes you a pretty good contender.
Yeah,
and then Kyrie goes to the Sixers with Joel Embiid, and that is a lethal. If you really think about putting those two together, it could be lethal. And so the question, of course, becomes, which is, I don't want to say lesser of two evils, but you know what I mean. What is more palpable, to give James Harden that extension or to give Kyrie Irving a similar but a little less money extension?
I would say, man.
Is it that crazy?
If the Nets were to do it and get James Harden back, James Harden looked good in the Nets uniform more times than not. In Philadelphia, he really never really looked like the guy that Brooklyn saw early. And even at some point when he was looking to get traded, he still was playing pretty good basketball. When he got to Philly, it just didn't look right for whatever reason. So maybe if he goes back with KD, you'll see what he was able to do with the Nets that first time around with them. Now with Kyrie's situation, you still got to be able to manage him and everything that he brings to the table. Are the Philadelphia people in the fan base, the Pats of the world and the Allen Yateses of the world, willing to deal with that because you know what you're getting?
That's what I want to know. That's exactly what I want to know. So let's first bring in Pat Costello, noted Sixers fan, who probably, like Pat, I need to know which – you can't say neither. That's not an option. One or the other.
Okay.
Which is more palpable to you?
James Harden, not Kyrie Irving.
Why?
I don't have faith in Kyrie Irving anymore, and I don't think he deserves the benefit of the doubt, whereas I'm willing to give that to James Harden.
You're willing to give James Harden the benefit of the doubt that he will be in shape, focused, motivated, wanting to play, all those things.
More so than Kyrie,
At
yes.
$50 million a year?
Yes.
Okay, more than Kyrie Irving.
I'm with Pat on that one, though. I feel like James Harden just got into a slump. Something happened there where it was a little bit of a slump. You just don't know. You just don't know with Kyrie. If he wants to play, something may happen, and he may not want to play, and you just don't know. Mm-hmm. At least you know James Harden is going to play.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.